Next up is my friend and longtime business colleague, Phil Rosick. Those of you who've been in the local search space for a while might know that Phil and I used to run an SEO service together called Whitespark. Phil is a true in the trenches local search expert. He's extremely hands-on with all his clients and is actually executing on this stuff day in and day out. He really knows what works from his many years of experience getting his clients ranking in the local results. If you're lucky enough to get a chance to work with him, then you will find that he's the last local SEO guy you'll ever need. That's his little tagline. So Phil will be presenting today on 10 Bootstrap ways to get more of your service area in local search. And so many of you might know that in the local pack results, your results you can really only rank within about a 10-mile radius. It's really hard to rank further outside of your business proximity. And so how do you basically get business from the rest of the city or all of the surrounding areas? And so Phil's going to touch in on some of that and give you some great tips and advice. If you have any questions for him, you can email him at phil@localvisibilitysystem.com and he'll get back to you. So welcome, Phil. It's great to have you here. Looking forward to your presentation.
Well, thanks for having me, Darren. It should be fun today.
Should be good.
Yeah, so I'm going to yak at you for a little bit about service areas. As Darren said, it's my whole talk today is based on the premise that you want to rank in more geography than you actually do rank in currently. The classic example I like is that you're a plumber and you serve 30 towns in your area, but even if you're doing well in the Google Maps results, you rank in about 2 of those towns. So the question is, how do you fill in the gaps? How do you get visible a little farther afield? Maybe you can't rank in all 30 towns, the remaining 28, but can you rank in 10 more? How much more can you bite off? And so my whole presentation today is about specific strategies you might be able to widen the gap a little bit, widen the net a little bit, I should say, and fill in some of the gaps in the net. And by grab more turf, as my slide says here, I mean both rank in more places and get customers or clients or patients from more places, because as we all know, rankings alone will not keep your pirate ship afloat, and you actually need to convert people and get new business. And so with that goal in mind, it's pretty much all about your site. I mean, obviously Google My Business is everywhere, and it's you don't want to mess it up, but there's only so much you can do. And again, if you're doing really well, you're not visible even in that many towns. So to widen the net is really all about organic local SEO and your website more than anything else. A few caveats. The little lawyer on my shoulder told me to say them. I'm not going to be talking about the GMB service area. The reason is, as Darren well knows, it is basically useless. Little thought experiment: if everybody changed their service area to cover the entire country they live in, in America, that's all 50 states, or in Canada, all of the provinces, would everybody rank there? Is that all you have to do to rank in those places? Of course not, because then everybody would do it, and then you'd be back to square one, where other things separate the high-ranking businesses from the others. So the service area, you can just forget about that. It's a non-factor for rankings purposes. Inbound links from other sites to your site do help you widen your service area a little bit and rank in more places. But I mean, we could literally do a 4-part webinar series just about links and how to earn them. And I know other speakers at the Whitespark Summit are covering links, so I'm not going to deal with those today, as useful as they are. City pages. If you read my blog, I talk about city pages a good deal, kind of the do's and don'ts of them. They somewhat tie in with some of the strategies I'm going to talk about today, but I'm not going to be spending much time on them, because if you're listening to this, you know the ins and outs of city pages, and they're either part of your strategy or you're not. So that is also kind of a topic for another day. So I'm talking about other strategies. What are they? All but one of them is, again, focused on your website. And because, again, that's where most of the action happens. I'm not saying that these are quick wins that you could bang out today after you're done listening to me talk. They do take time and in some cases ongoing effort, but they're also, when I say they're bootstrap, I mean that you don't have to pay Google AdWords or other advertising. So they are free in that sense. I'm going to be going real heavy on the real life examples. So if you have the ability to look them up as we go, it might be a little easier to follow along. If you can't, that's no big deal. And the real life examples are all people I've worked with. So if you like what I have to show you, I will gladly take all the credit for it. And if you don't like the examples, I can always blame my clients. So these are, again, real life in the wild examples. So strategy number one is all about your homepage. You have to make the homepage deep and wide. And by that, I mean, when I say I make the homepage deep, I mean drill down into a specialty, either the one specific service you're known for, or the most profitable service, or just one niche. Here's an example of a tree service I work with in the Atlanta area. And he offers a range of other services, but he kind of hangs his hat on emergency tree care, tree removals, where a tree has fallen on your house, pancaked your roof, and you need it off, and you need it off fast. And he has this monolithic crane, and so it's easy work for him, but it's an emergency job, and people don't need it all the time. So it's this really narrow niche, but it's very profitable, and there's a very acute need for it. So after a little bit of hemming and hawing and kind of going a little, having our SEO efforts a little too broad, we decided, okay, we're going to drill down on this niche. So his homepage is now all about emergency tree care. And the reason is the homepage has the best shot in general at ranking for whatever niche you go after. Obviously, that applies outside of the tree care space. But if you're an attorney, for instance, you don't want to you want to try to carve out a niche. Likewise, if you're a plumber and you focus on installing tankless water heaters, whatever your niche is, make sure your homepage covers it. Not at the exclusion of other services you offer, though. I mean, my tree care guy does offer these other services, but they're kind of small fry compared to the main service, which 80% of the content on the homepage is about. So the point is, on your homepage, try to apply the 80-20 rule and put a lot of your effort into the one service or the couple of services you really, really care about, and that for you are most profitable. Similar example here. I don't know if you can see all of this, how much of this you can see on the slide, but this is right in the middle of the slide is a screenshot of one of my clients' home pages. It's kind of like the free bird of landing pages because it just keeps on rocking, it just keeps on going. If you printed out the whole page and put it on your wall, it would be 6 foot 4 inches tall. Very long. It just keeps going. And so there's all kinds of content we have on there that you should really just look up the site, istandremovalguys.com, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And here too, we focus on a specific niche. It's the service called iStand removal. But what's interesting is we started off as like a sort of a regional business where we just focus on customers in Minnesota, but eventually expanded it out to basically all the states in the US where there is snow. And so when I say make your homepage deep and wide, I mean go deep into whatever niche you're trying to own, but also go wide. We actually rank in like most or all of these states. And I'll return to this particular client as an example a couple times later. But when I say we go wide on the homepage, I mean, we don't just have a Minnesota service area. We have links to pages on these other areas, these other states, and we actually talk about them, and we have videos and testimonials from people from these various parts of the country. So especially if you go niche on a very kind of specialized service, it's important to cast a wider net geographically. So make sure you have a big fat service area on your homepage. And here's just some more content from that page if you want to look it up. I highly recommend you do. Second strategy is spin-off pages. By that I mean you take a main service you offer, one that's really important to you, like in this case, Fun Paw Care in Los Angeles, funpawcare.com. The big service is dog training, but a dog is not a dog. So you have puppies who need to be trained. You have service dogs who need to be trained. Probably other types of dogs need to be trained. So the idea is, when I say make a spin-off page, I mean take a big topic and break it up into smaller topics and make a page on each of those to reflect your services. So in this case, the client offers puppy training as a distinct service. And so he has a page on puppy training, which that's kind of a spin-off page on the main dog training page. So you can do that no matter, basically whatever your product or service is. You can make spin-off pages of the broader offering. And I suggest you do, because in his case, just to follow this example, the puppy training page ranks. I think it does even better than the dog training page for some search terms. So that's the idea with spin-off pages. Make big service pages a little more focused and smaller. Another example is this auctioneer site. This is also a client. You can see here we have all these different kinds of auctions my client runs, and coin auctions are front and center. Well, within we don't just have one coin auctions page. We have that page, of course, but we also have one on gold coins and silver coins, and also for comic books, the different niche he really cares about. We have the main comic books page, but we also have a page on DC comic book auctions and Marvel comic book auctions. And so collectively, all these very niche pages do really well. So my advice here is never ask yourself, should I make a page on that service? The answer is always yes. Keep cranking them out. There's no such thing as too specific. Highly recommended part of your strategy to widen the service area. Because one phenomenon you'll notice, by the way, is that the really niche pages rank in more places, either more cities or more states or even more regions. So that's a relatively easy way to widen the net. Here's an example that I can just skip. The gold coin page is doing well, as is the coin auctions page. But again, I hope you look up that example if you have the ability. That's actually very related to this point. I kind of talked about both spin-off pages and niche service pages. Just to gloss over this one really quickly, if you go to a site called Primo Electric, they're in San Diego, PREMO electric.com. This is the homepage. This is a partial list of the services they offer. And we have a page for each one of these services. And as you can see, they are pretty niche. And obviously he cares about ranking for broad terms like electrician, electrical repair, et cetera, but there are all these specific electrical services he performs. And so how do those pages do? This is what you see in Google Search Console. The homepage, of course, is the 800-pound gorilla, but look, this page on meter base replacement and Tesla charging installation. Those are number 2 and number 3. So you add up all of these niche pages and they actually add up to real traffic. And he actually, I know for a fact, he gets a lot of customers for these relatively niche services. So again, the point is keep going on the niche pages. Strategy number 4 is don't relegate your online service to just one lousy page on your site. And by that, I mean, here's an example of a psychologist I work with. And she, ever since COVID hit, has focused more on online therapy than on in-the-office, in-person therapy. And she's actually been able to do it. She didn't have a lot of online clients before, but she's made the transition. And that's partly because we have a page on the site where we talk all about kind of online or virtual therapy for various challenges, but we also have this info front and center on the homepage. So if you go to the homepage, realchangecounseling.com, you'll see what's on my screen right near the top of the pile. It's not like you have to click a link or fish around in the main navigation to find the page where we talk about online therapy. It's right there. So there's plenty of content on the homepage. And that'll help not only the homepage in some cases rank for sort of online variations of local search terms you care about, but you're more likely to convert that traffic to sort of whatever online clientele you're trying to get more of. If they don't have to fish around on your site to learn that you do have an online offering that they can use. So this is the homepage. That's one lesson. That's a natural place to put any info on your online offering. So that's kind of one prong of the strategy. Also on your online service page, don't just say there's an online version of kind of your quote normal service. Talk about what specific issues you deal with. Talk about which types of service kind of have an online version that you can do remotely for customers or clients or patients. Like if it's telehealth, I mean, obviously there's certain treatments you can do over the phone or over Zoom, and some you can't. So on that page, you want to talk about specific problems you can help customers or clients or patients with. So this is a little snapshot of what you see on our kind of virtual counseling page. These are some specific issues my client helps her clients with. So that also can help you rank for a wider variety of terms. And again, you're more likely to convert people if they know specifically what you can and cannot do in kind of an online or virtual setting. I'll just gloss over this example really quick. This is just kind of a little sidebar. This is what I think is a really clever online version of a service that used to be just 100% in person. It's a mold remediation company, and they'll do a mold inspection virtually, where basically you set up your phone, you get on FaceTime with them, and they walk you through your own house, and they ask you to show them the mold, and they tell you, how much of a problem is it? Is it mold? What kind of mold is it? And what can you do to remediate it? So they don't have. This is kind of a COVID era thing that might stick around for a while, but it's very handy because that's a natural way to widen the service area if they don't have to drive to your home to look for the mold. So it's great outside of the box thinking that I actually think I mentioned in a blog post or two earlier this year. Here's just a snapshot of that page and how detailed it is. So highly recommend it. I highly recommend you check out this example if you can. It's moldmanusa.com. Another tactic that I'm a big fan of is shooting and then using on-the-job videos. Now, they don't have to be fancy. Here's another example for my tree care guy. Anytime he goes to a new tree emergency where a tree has fallen on somebody's house, he either films the crane in action as he and his guys remove the tree, or he's just in his truck and they're setting stuff up, they're getting the crane mobilized, and he shows some footage of the boom moving and like lifting a giant tree as though it was a toothpick. And then we don't stop there. So we have this video, as you can see, the title is pretty well optimized, and so that can in itself rank in YouTube and in the search results for certain local search terms that you might not be able to rank for on the local free pack. But then we also build a whole page on this job to showcase the job that's in the video. And so my client will also take photos, and we provide a link to the photos so people can kind of get another angle on the job. And I ask him to provide me a couple blurbs of color commentary that we put on the page and use to kind of as sort of a skeleton to hang sort of the muscle on, in this case, the video. So the idea is to shoot kind of low production value, quick videos on the job in certain locations, optimize the videos for those locations, and then build whole pages on the site around those videos. And just keep going. As you do more jobs, you're not going to do the same exact job in a given place every time. So you'll kind of naturally diversify what services you're targeting and what places you're targeting. Here's just another example of that. Different place, similar service, different page. We target it. We just target a different place for basically the same search terms, and it works. So shoot quick videos, build pages around those videos. Here's another example that I can probably just glaze over. It's about bathtub refinishing. As you can see, this one page outranks the home page for a certain search term, which is kind of an affluent suburb of Kansas City. And what's on the page? Nothing fancy. A couple videos on the job and a couple paragraphs of content. So sometimes that's all it takes. I don't have time to go over this example, but if you have the ability to look at my slides and pull up certain websites, you can find an example of this auto detailing company that's just killing it on video. So I highly recommend you look them up. Here's the one tactic I'm going to talk about that is not about the website specifically. It's about the GMB practitioner pages, by which I mean like these. Here's an attorney who is part of a firm that ranks for a variety of search terms and that practices various areas of law, and he practices various areas, certain areas of law too. So he's not just an immigration attorney, but we optimize his GMB page just for the term immigration attorney. That's his primary category. His description and other moving parts of the page also talk about his experience as an immigration attorney. And so we don't try to optimize for all of his practice areas, but rather try to drill down on this one. And this is there's only one slide on this because this is very closely related to the next point, which is what happens on the website. Now, once again, what happens on GMB kind of hinges on what goes on your website. So one reason we're able to optimize the GMB, his practitioner GMB page, and actually have him rank for that in that niche, immigration law, is that his bio page on the site is also all about immigration law. Now, this particular attorney does practice other areas of law, but he and the other attorneys kind of pick one niche to drill down in. And other pages on the site make it clear, these various attorneys don't just practice one type of law. But the point is we're applying the 80-20 rule. And so his bio page is just all about immigration cases. And once again, we go along and we provide all kinds of detail on what kinds of cases he handles within immigration law. And so that really helps the GMB page actually rank for whatever the primary category is. If the landing page is also all about that sort of subspecialty, the primary category. And we do the same tactic with other attorneys, by the way. So there's this Rachel lady. She's another attorney there. She practices a range of cases, but we optimize her GMB page for divorces. And her bio page is all about divorce law. And lo and behold, she ranks well for the term divorce attorney Sheboygan, which is in Wisconsin. And so it's kind of this 1-2 punch of specializing the GMB page and specializing on your bio page. And if you do that, what you'll find is that if you're like a law firm or medical practice or a real estate group, for instance, with multiple practitioners, these people aren't all competing against each other. You kind of divide and conquer, and maybe the practice ranks for a mishmash of different terms, but then individual practitioners own one niche. And if each of them focuses on one niche and you put them all together, once again, that can add up to real traffic and actual new clients. So again, divide and conquer, own a niche. Another strategy is piggyback off of any non-local content you have. Like the classic example is a blog post that gets you a ton of traffic and that gets you even more visitors than, say, the homepage has. But that doesn't seem to bring you any local business because it's not meant for local people and it isn't optimized for local search terms. Some of the readers, though, are local people. Like in this case, here's an example of a blog post that brings this particular client a ton of traffic. And most of the readers of this post are not in the Austin, Texas area, but some are. So at the very top of the page, we have this shout out where we say, hey, if you're in the Austin, Texas area and you have this problem, contact us. And so it's a good way to siphon off whatever non-local visibility you have, kind of get it into your local funnel, if you will. And also it's a good way to drop in an internal link with some pretty juicy anchor text if you want to go that route. Similar example here, there's this is a patent attorney in Orange County, California. He does a phenomenal job of blogging, but of course, a lot of his blog posts reach people outside of Orange County or even outside of California. And so one thing we did here was, again, we siphoned off some of his traffic and told any readers of his who are in Orange County or in California, hey, this guy's local, he can help you out. Here's a link. So that's also a good tactic if you have local traffic that basically doesn't seem to convert. That's a good way to widen the net. State pages. These are huge. If you can't build a city page that does well, by which I mean it ranks and it actually converts people, go for some state pages. I've had some really good success again for this client whom I'm bringing up again. And if you read my blog, I bring this guy up all the time because he's an example of kind of what you want to do. So you can see for this term, ISTAM removal, Denver, this city page for Denver ranks well, but right below that is the state page for all of Colorado. And it used to, for years and years, it used to be the other way around. The state page actually did better than the city page. And I'm kind of glad that it's reversed because we want the city page to do well on a city level. But like before that happened, the state page was visible for all kinds of terms, and it still is visible. So it's a really good kind of catch-all bucket, especially if you're not sure what to put on a city page, or you want to create 50 of them and you want them to be somewhat high quality. Go for a state page first. Talk about your service area. Mention all the cities you target. Show all the jobs you've done in the state or in the area. Pile the page high with all the kind of local content you have about whatever place you're targeting. You can always do the city pages later, and in fact, the state pages are a great way to house your city pages. Because when you do add them, it's very clear how you can link to your city pages and incorporate them into your internal linking. So do some state pages, especially if you live in a small state or you target multiple states. Do those before you do city pages, because I think you'll find they will rank for terms you might not expect to rank for. And in some senses, they're a little less work than city pages, and they're a little more likely to work out. So highly recommend that you get a couple of state pages in there and just build them up over time. Similar example here, we've gotten jobs in all kinds of states, include, from my native Massachusetts all the way out to Idaho and Washington State and everywhere in between. And the state pages have really been the core of that. So here's another example of a page we just piled high with local content. Here's another example that you can just kind of pull up independently if you want. If you go to equitablemediation.com, you'll see some examples of really good state pages. And actually, a few years ago, I did a blog post about these guys because they do a really good job kind of targeting state-level local SEO terms. Last but not least, this is probably my favorite expand the net tactic. It is to create a really good service areas page or areas served page or whatever you want to call it. Once again, my tree care guy is a good example of this. You can see on this page, if you go to 770arborist.com and then go to, it's like under the tree services tab, it's service areas or something like that. Most of the service area page talks about Georgia because that's where most of his jobs are and that's where his crew is based. But lower down on the page, we also talk about other places where he's done jobs, like most recently Iowa. I don't think we even have that on there yet, but he's done jobs in Florida, he's done jobs in North Carolina, and he actually gets calls from these places. So this area served page is kind of, it kills a lot of birds with one stone. And it's good to point AdWords traffic to it. If you have, again, non-local traffic that doesn't seem to convert, you can get a sense of kind of how far away people will call you from and how far away they're willing to work with you. It also can rank for near me terms really well if you play your cards right. It can rank for state level terms. So once again, it's the kind of page you can build up high and use as a natural way to integrate any city pages or state pages for that matter that you create later. So here's another example. This is from r3detailing.com. It's an auto detailing business in Houston. You can pull it up on your own, but they talk about the service area and they talk about the specific services they offer in those specific communities. That's basically the core of what your area served page should be: where you do what you do and where you do it. And I know this sounds like Stone Age SEO advice, but kind of the longer you can go, the more detail you can go into, the better. So again, it's one of those pages where you want to go long. Once again, iStam Guys is an example of this. I won't dwell on it because it's one of these pages that just goes on and on and on, but it's really pulled its weight, and the page has ranked well for a number of years, and it's helped us kind of take this business from very local to basically national. And a lot of the credit goes to, again, this areas served page. So if you can pull up that example, that would be great. Here's another example from my auctioneer. This one's interesting because it's the landing page for our Boston Google My Business page. So he has 2 locations. They point to 2 different landing pages on the site. One of them points to the home page. The other his Boston location points to the Boston subpage on his site. And this is basically a Boston landing page and an area served page all in one, because we talk about the specific jobs he's done in Boston and very nearby, and we talk about all the suburbs we serve, and we link to the city pages where we also target those suburbs. So again, in lieu of city pages, have a really big areas served page and talk about and try to target specific cities on that areas served page if you can. Here's what I was talking about a minute ago. This is basically the service area or the core of it, and we link to these city pages. We have pages on these cities, so it's not either or, it's both. And the main Boston kind of service areas page targets these places, and the city pages target these places. Here's a quick recap. I don't know if we have time to go over it, but these are the highlighted, and you could probably read faster than I can read this off to you, but basically the highlighted parts on this slide are kind of the tools in your tool belt that you want to use to expand your service area. And as you can see, only number 6 is related to GMB, and the other 9 of my strategies are just all about your website and your organic SEO. So quick takeaways. This is kind of the reverse of the classic SEO approach of siloing, where you have like one page that goes after one search term and it's just laser focused on that search term. On a local level, you kind of want to do the opposite. You want to increase the number of pages that actually could rank for a given search term. So you want the home page to go after a search, like let's say you wanted to do a city page and just rank well within a city for a certain keyword. I would say target that keyword on the city page and on the home page and on a state page and even on the areas served page. And then on your services pages or product pages or whatever, also mention your service area. So those product pages or those city pages, those service pages also could rank in specific communities you care about. Show the work you've done rather than just say, basically, hire me, hire me. So again, any photos or videos and testimonials you can wheel out from jobs you've done in the places you want to rank in. The more of that you can do, the better. And the third and final tip is never stop building. So this is not a once and done approach. Once you've made a city page or a state page or an area served page, don't call it done. You work on it over months and over the years. Don't shoot a couple of on-the-job videos and call it a day. Keep adding them. Keep taking photos every time you go to a new job. Keep shooting videos. Keep adding them to your site, and keep making what's on your site sort of more of a portfolio of all the work you've done and kind of the range of things you're good at. So that's it for me. Thanks for listening. If you want to email me, phil@localvisibilitysystem.com with any questions, or if I forgot anything, or if you have a real life example that you'd like me to know about, I'd love to hear it. Thank you. Over to you, Darren.
All right. Thank you very much, Phil. Hang on, I'm just gonna turn your screen sharing so you can see both of us. There we are.
Yeah. Hey, I can see you.
Yes, thank you. That was great. Honestly, it was a real clinic on just how to do this. And it's interesting how it's a local search conference, but almost everything you talked about is kind of traditional SEO, because we're not really talking about the local pack at all. We're really talking about expanding your traffic to your website through all of these organic tactics, which is, at the end of the day, that's what people want, right? They just want more calls, more visitors, more people finding their business on Google. And I also really loved how your presentation was so example driven. Like, anyone watching can now go back through all of those examples, and it's like a blueprint on exactly how you can do this. So I thought that was fantastic. And so you can look at all those examples and do it. I was going to ask you, have you seen any of these? So let's say you put this investment into creating all that content, you're building it out, these city pages, have you seen that impact like an expansion of your local rankings as well? Because, we know that you can kind of start here, and if you use a tool like Local Falcon, you can see that over time you can actually rank in a wider radius, even in the local results. Have you seen any of this content injection have an impact on local results as well?
It depends. I have in some cases. That's probably, we could probably do a couple webinars or a couple sort of presentations just on that.
Yeah.
For one thing, it depends on like how many one box terms you go after. In other words, local terms where somebody types it in and your Google My Business page is the only one that shows up. Your knowledge panel is the only one that shows up, and it's not a 3-pack.
Yeah.
If you have a way to go after one box terms, then there's a very clear relationship between cranking out spin-off pages, tactic number 2, cranking out niche pages, tactic number 3, even number 1, where you flesh out your homepage and kind of own a niche. There's a clear relationship between doing that and ranking on the map more often and for more terms. If you can go after like really niche terms and basically be the only one in the area who goes after this niche service or niche product. In terms of 3-pack rankings, not so much. I mean, there's a little bit of overlap in the sense that anytime you acquire a new customer, in some way, shape, or form, that person can help you pick basically rank better through a combination of you get links and you get some online mentions.
Reviews from the person in the area, especially if they mention their area.
Yeah, you get raw materials that you can use to make videos to attract more of those people. You put the videos on your GMB page. You put the photos on your GMB page. You put all of that stuff on your website. So it's this big, I'm going to do a blog post about this at some point, by the way. This like this big recycling wheel of all these different kinds of content. And there are all these ways to use them. And anytime you get a new job, that can give you a lot of different content that you can use, mostly to rank in the organics, but also to a lesser extent on the map.
The $1 million question that kept popping into my head throughout your presentation is, what do you do if you are a small business owner who just can't find the time to write, or you're an agency and your clients will not write content for you? How do I see the strategy. It makes perfect sense. You got to create all these pages, but someone's got to write that content. So what do you do in that situation?
A couple tools in the tool belt. A lot of the time, I have found at least, the business owner who doesn't like to write does love to yak about his or her service, specialty, expertise. And so if you, the SEO person or a trusted helper or a third party, kind of what I call a stunt pen, can interview the person and get him or her just to yak for an hour. And that will give you some great raw materials. My tree in the example I wheeled out a couple times of the tree service, he doesn't like to write, but he's really good on video. He just blasts them out. It's just, you know, it's like second nature to him. And so he's very comfortable in front of the camera, even with, you know, with low production value. He just points his phone at his face and starts yelling. Yeah. And he'll also transcribe that stuff. And then, you know, my helpers and I can kind of doll it up and make it sort of SEO friendly and a little more readable and less rough around the edges. But, you know, if you can get your client who hates to write to talk, that's probably the easiest way. Or if you can ask them very specific questions, or at least you can mine their reviews. You can look at what their customers say about them. You can, if there's any kind of portfolio, either photos or videos of jobs they've done, you can piece together what to say about their service and what makes it different and better.
Right.
So there's always a way, but, you know, there's no such thing as a solution, only a trade-off. And so, you know, but that could end up being more work than if you just had your client slop down a few paragraphs that, you know, then he or she sends to you and you work your magic with those. Yep. So it's just a matter of, it all depends on the client and what is the path of least resistance for him or her.
Yeah, that makes sense. I really like that tip of just like getting them to speak it in either a phone interview that you record and then getting it transcribed. We've used, for some of the video stuff that Whitespark has done in the past, we've used a company called SpeechPad. And so you just upload your video or upload your audio file and they'll send you back the written content. And then we'll use that and kind of just rework it and boom, there you go. You got content.
That's perfect. I mean, yeah, more succinct way to say what I just said is if you can get your client to talk, or if you can see what their customers have said, you can get them to talk essentially, then you know, you've got some good raw materials.
Mining the reviews is really smart too. Another thing you can do is you can kind of mine your competitors' reviews and your competitors' Google Q&A and your competitors' websites, just see what people are saying, just to sort of pull out the main topics that you want to make sure you include in your content.
That's a great point. You can even mine non-competitors' reviews. So if you find people businesses in the same industry, you know, 200 miles away, they're
different
not your
city,
competitors.
other side of the country,
yeah, you know, you'll get some ideas from there too.
Yeah, really great. I thought it was interesting how you focused on estate pages. Like, honestly, I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about that. I think you're the first person that's really been like, these state pages can be gold, because I see a lot of people talking about city pages, but I thought it was really great to look at that state page. What about ice dam removal guys? Like, do they actually service? Like, will they drive 400 miles?
Oh yeah, well, I don't want to open the kimono too much here in case a competitor of my client is listening, but yeah, I mean, they have such heavy machinery, they have to send it, you know, so there's no way to just hop on a plane. And, you know, he has sent, this particular client who's in Minnesota, has sent crews to Washington, D.C., the Boston area here. He sent them to Colorado. He sent them to Idaho and Oregon, Washington State, etc. So he's been all over the place. And you know, I mean, one reason he knows where there's going to be, you know, a biblical snowstorm is, you know, he obviously pays attention to the weather, but the state pages are nice because they act as feelers, because they rank in places where ice dam removal is a competitive service, but they also rank in places where people haven't heard of it. So if there's like the one storm that rolls in, you know, and it's like a once in a decade experience, and there's not a lot of competition nearby, he'll have this page in a less competitive market that ranks, and he'll be the first one to get calls. So basically, a state page in that case functions as like an early listening post, where it's like, aha, not only do I know what the weather is like in West Virginia, but I actually have been getting calls from people in West Virginia who say, hey, any chance you have a crew on the way, or do you have a crew here already? So he knows that, okay, as soon as people start calling, it's on. You know, I could probably send a crew out there.
Sure.
And a lot of times he does that. So he actually has served, I didn't have time in the presentation to go through this, but I showed that map of that's on his areas served page of like, basically the northern 60% of the US. With all these states that are in his service area. He's served probably 25 of those states. So there are a few states that are in his service area he hasn't had occasion to go to yet, but most of them he's actually done jobs in. And so when he gets a job, we're able to rustle up links there because the news cameras, the news crews love him. We get some videos out of the deal. We get some testimonials and reviews from local customers. And so it's all this new content that we can put both on the state page and the city pages in some cases, areas served page, home page. So it's just this big wheel. So yeah, he's a great example. But I love the state pages because, again, they are catch-all buckets, and you don't have to be that creative to make a halfway decent state page. Whereas with the city page, you have to think, oh my God, what do I say about this this place with a population of 600? I've never been there.
Right.
What do I say? And so with the state page, you don't have to rack your brains as much. You can describe a big fat service area, and you can describe exactly what you do, and you can pile it high with internal links. You can pile a bunch of internal links to it rather than try to figure out, okay, how do I drop footer links to 50 different city pages, and how do I link to them in the main nav too, and how do I link to them on other pages without just looking like a link farm? It's very easy with a state page and also, again, with areas served pages to kind of make a strong internal linking game with those pages.
All right, well, Phil, I think the message there with all those city pages, state pages, service pages is, you really talked about as your primary takeaway. Never stop building. As you keep adding these pages, you're casting a wider net, being able to rank for more and more terms, and hey, drive more business. There you go.
Well said.
Okay, well, thank you, Phil. It was great to see you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay.